You're listening to Storystruck. I'm Rachel, an editor and writing coach.
And I'm Nino, a ghostwriter and book coach. Welcome to our curious community where we dive into everything books and writing.
Now, let's get into the episode.
Welcome, Marisa Wolf, to the Storystruck podcast. So Marisa is a prolific writer who's written 12 novels, 35 short stories. 8 of her novels have been co-authored with authors that range from new to the industry to grandmasters in sci-fi. Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to talk to you because there's more than one person here. So, you have a debut fantasy novel that's coming out, diving into the fantasy world. Can you tell us a bit about your new book, A Plague of Magic?
I can. So, A Plague of Magic, the tagline that actually the publisher came up with, and I freaking love it, is a big score, a little dragon, and a whole lot of trouble. So it is.
I love it so much. All.
Right? I also have like so many dragons near me, but I have this little one, so I keep popping them out like little dragon. There's chaos. Like, it's a good thing the camera is so close to me, because chaos. So the novel is the story of Seema and her crew of fellow thieves that are also her family. They've decided, they're getting too old for thievery. It's a young person's game, and they're going to go straight. And then they find just completely life-changing, game-changing treasure, which... Yeah, so that's it. The rest of their life, easy street. So great. They're just going to be rich. No problems whatsoever. But big problems, big problems. So she lives in a world where magic has been outlawed since it basically ended the world 400 years before. So chaos ensues.
Awesome.
Very, very cool.
Thanks.
So is this kind of like an urban fantasy where we're kind of blending magic with modern, or is it a complete fantasy world?
Really good question. It is its own fantasy world. I wanted to steer away from doing it's medieval London-ish.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different world. It's hopefully a whole different society. And it is based on some semi-real life events though. So
okay.
Wow.
Very cool.
So exciting. So when you jumped into this fantasy, how much of this embracing the imperfect first draft, we're used to doing so much sci-fi, how much of that embracing the imperfect first draft did you have to remind yourself about?
All the time. So I mentioned to these fine folks before we started that what I thought the tone of the book was going to be is not what actually happened. So a couple of things I had to remember is I knew what the very beginning was, the first couple of paragraphs. I knew it. I had known it for a couple of years before I got started. When I decided that Seema needed a crew, I had to kind of figure out who they were because they needed to be real to her, so they needed to be real to me. And it was not right, that first draft. And I knew it wasn't. I knew their interactions weren't correct. I knew I hadn't quite figured out the characters. But for me, the only way to figure them out is to write them. So I just kind of pushed through, and then the whole tone of the book started to change, and I was like, And then, y'all, I got 70,000 words in, which if you are not an author and that makes no sense to you, roughly half. And I realized, oh no, I need a second point of view character. So I had to go back and kind of slot in what he was doing along the way, so that when he met up with Seema, it made sense. And then I had to rewrite some of her sections, and it was a whole thing. But the whole time I was like, it's the first draft. It's fine. We'll get there in the end. And it's so much easier to fix things once you know what happens, than to try to re-edit as you go.
I think that's so important for writers to remember, because we see the end product, right? We don't see all of these revisions and drafts that people go through. So I'm kind of curious to know, with your writing process, because I'm very Virgo energy. So like I plot everything out and then I let it kind of evolve and kind of change. Like I give myself the wiggle room. But like, she is more the free spirit of like
The
discovery
Gemini.
writing, right? We're like
Oh,
totally
high five.
opposites.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm curious what your process is like and how that develops with your imperfect first draft.
Yes. So, as I just said, my birthday is actually tomorrow. I am a Gemini. I am
Oh,
a
happy early
yes.
birthday.
High fives. High
Birthday
fives.
club.
For
So
most Geminis.
right here we are. So one process is obviously not going to work for me. I do all the things. So I have a mix. So I will have an outline. Usually the first part of the book, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen. It's usually on track with what I think is going to happen. The middle, I have a fair idea, and the end is vibes. The end, like I might know exactly the end, but how we get there, the third act, vibes, we'll figure it out when we get there, change it in post. If I outline too much, when the characters decide to tell me that that is not what they're doing, I get really mad, as opposed to when I just vaguely outline, I'm like, you're right, let's just go on this adventure and see what happens. So I've seen people call it planting instead, like it's neither plotting nor pantsing, it's planting. I don't like it. I don't like how it feels in my mouth. So I call it chaotic planning. It's fine. We will get there how we get there.
That seems like the most Gemini thing ever to me because like I literally like it's always like it's like the like I thrive in chaos kind of thing where I'm just like, oh well, I know that this has to happen at some point and that's about it. Like I literally had, well, I know in my novel, like this is my turning point in the book because my novel I'm working on now, I'm in editing for it and it's based around Norse mythology, and so I knew I needed this one Norse story to hit at a certain point. And so I'm like, okay, I know that that's the turning point. Now let's get to it, and we're gonna start here.
Yep.
And then that was
Yep.
it, and stuff. And so like but I think Stephen King talks about how he just like, I'm gonna write a book about this, and then he just sits down and starts doing it.
Yeah, that's wild.
And it's so like open in general. That's why I think
Gives
he's like
you like Rachel, it
fully
gives you like
Yeah, I'm
channeling.
like, oh God, no. No.
He's like fully channeling it, but then like J.K. Rowling
Mhm.
is known for her like detailed plotting out everything
Yeah.
and stuff. So I wish she kind of plotted out like how she was going to affect the world a little bit, or maybe she did, and she's just
Yeah,
the villain.
here we are.
But sorry, I can't say her name without shitting on it.
I mean, that seems fair. Yeah.
All right, so now I feel kind of inspired to maybe be a little bit looser and go in between.
Love it.
So, Marissa, I am actually developing a workshop for writers to use Oracle and Tarot cards in like their plotting and character development. And so, like, it's kind of like, right, that's like my creative fun side. And I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I need to loosen up a little bit, have kind of that general map,
Mhm.
but be a little bit more playful. Because I come from a nonfiction background where you have to
yeah.
be very rigid,
Very
regimented. When you're writing for like psychologists and like, business leaders, like that's the game. So I'm learning how to transition that into more of this creative space that fills my cup a little bit more than kind of being that academic.
Yeah. I mean, there's no wrong answer, right? Like the beauty of writing is it's whatever works for you. And the horror of the beauty of it is that can be different from like month to month. That can be different from project to project. So there are some projects I cannot, usually a short story, I cannot start until I know what I'm doing. Like it won't be super detailed, but I have to know where I'm going. Otherwise, like 12,000 words later, we're not a short story anymore. But like A Plague of Magic did what it wanted. So like I had a plan, and nope, that's not what we did. So I think it is like listen to what, like when you hear something, you're like that resonates with me. That's the advice you should use 100%. So if what you're feeling right now is like, yes, I should get a little more playful and creative, heck yeah. But if you're like, oh, that sounds terrible, I can't handle it, no stress, then no, don't do that.
That's fantastic. I like that. It leaves that room for everybody to know that there is no one writing process and your writing process isn't wrong. And then also to be willing to try on different ones to see what works with you, and know, as you said, that that could change from book to book, season to season. That we evolve as writers, and each project it has its own life.
Oh my gosh, yes, accurate.
Yeah, and I think that, ties into like listening and following what your
Mhm.
story is telling you as well with things. Like not only like the flow of like, oh no, this feels more right, this feels more right
Mhm.
and stuff, but like when you jumped over to fantasy from sci-fi,
Mhm.
right? You were following that
Yeah.
intuitive pull of like, no, this is the story that needs to be told. Like, we talked to your friend Casey Ezel about the same thing, of like following what's being called to you and allowing the story to play out through you and kind of like be that conduit for the story. And I think with writing fiction, you have so much play that you can do on that and really channel in the full story of everything and allow that story to tell you where it wants to go. And so it's just all about like practicing the listening to the story of it.
And letting it be messy. Like I will say all the time, the best writing advice is the advice that works for you. Not everything works for everybody. Not everything is right for everybody or at that time or whatever. Um, with that said, the one thing I cannot find a downside to this advice is the only purpose of your first draft is to exist. All it has to do is be there. Um, it it doesn't have to be perfect. It in fact shouldn't be perfect. Please take that weight off of you. I know it's really hard for a Virgo
Yeah.
to hear, but like for it cannot be perfect because no matter how well you've planned it, you don't know all the little twists and turns it's going to take. Let it exist, and then you go back afterwards and you figure out how to make it look like you knew what you were doing the whole time. And this is not my advice. This is stolen from the internet like ether of advice that has been around, but it helps so much because you might get halfway through the story and be like, "Oh no, this isn't a story about this at all. This is actually my main character. This is actually the thing that has to happen." And if you haven't put so much pressure on your first draft to be perfect, it's so much easier to finish and then fix it. Big take.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with was it Anne Lamott in her
Mm.
book Bird by Bird, she
Oh, I
really
love
talks
that so
about
much.
that and like
Yeah.
the embracing that shitty first draft because
Hmm.
when you already go in knowing that it's shitty,
Hmm.
like the simple things of like, oh, I didn't put the comma there, or like things like that, they don't matter as much. Oh, I don't have the name for this character or whatever, but you know that they're just kind of like an like they're just like a side character and stuff like that. You don't need the name, you know
Yep.
and stuff like
That's
that,
what
and just
brackets are
having
for.
like those little brackets that says
Yes.
character name.
Yes.
I've done entire scenes that way. Like I will get to a place and like I need something actiony here. I don't know what that's going to be. Brackets. Cool stuff goes here. Next. I just
Yes.
keep going. Follow the energy of the story where it takes you.
I love that, keeping yourself in that flow state, because if you're stopping to look something up, think of something, it's hard to get back into flow. And so, like, when I do editing and talk with people about that, I always tell them, when you finish that first draft, that's not when you go into editing mode. That's not when we're going to fix commas, fixing that. You are making infinitely more work for yourself.
Yes.
At that point, like, even during the drafting stage, right? Turn off the autocorrect, the spelling. Like, we don't need to see squiggle lines and suggestions. Grammarly can shut up. I don't want to see it.
Agreed.
Right? So turn all of that off. And when you're done through it from beginning to end,
Mm-hmm.
because then you're going to see, oh, I totally missed this here or this here, and just enjoy the process, maybe make some notes, but don't dive right into the editing of chapter by chapter by chapter, because you don't know yet where kind of those holes are, or at least that's kind of what I've seen. Is that has that been true in your case?
Sorry, I froze right when you said um, the chapter by
Sorry.
chapter part. I'm sorry, no, that was me.
No, no,
And
that's
that's going
okay.
on.
So I was saying, like, I would not recommend, at least from like the folks I work with, to you finish your first draft,
Mhm.
then to go back and start editing chapter one, then chapter two, then chapter three. Like, read through, kind of jot yourself down some notes and things like that. And then you're going to see where there's maybe flow issues, or like you noticed, oh, like I need another character here that doesn't make sense. Like there's going to be multiple rounds of revision. It's not just first draft. Okay, second draft, I'm sending that to the editor.
Perfect. I'm amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Although, sometimes you might have ridden up right on a deadline with a short story, and sometimes that happens, but do not
Yeah.
recommend.
That's where I'm having the hardest time. Like the creating of the story, that was so freaking easy. Like that was just like, oh my God, I'm so meant to do this. Like, oh my God, look at me just like hammering away at this novel. And then I got to editing and I'm like, no. It's like going and then I'm like, okay, oh, I forgot the comma here. And I literally got this little red pen and I printed this up. I don't know if you can see it, but this little like notebook right here, that's got my novel in it. And I'm just just writing little notes and I have like this little notebook that I'm like, okay, chapter 4. Ooh, gotta fix that problem. Oh, are we developing this later on? Like, remember, focus on this later on in the story. Like, don't forget this piece. Like little things like that. And I'm like having the hardest time through editing because like my brain wants to do developmental editing, line editing, and proofreading at the same
Same
time.
time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like slapping Nino's hand. I'm like, no,
Yes.
we're not doing
Yes.
this right now.
Don't do all that. No. Yeah.
She keeps
Yeah.
telling me, just read the damn thing first. And I'm like, but.
It's wrong. Yeah, I will say, like, man, I feel this in my soul. And I definitely get to a place because there are multiple rounds of edits, right? There's there's the development, the line, the copy, the everything, right? The proofreader. And I will get to a point where I'm like, I hate this book. I never want to see this book again. This is hot garbage. I hate it. I can't look at it. But then you take just a little time and you breathe and you walk away, maybe touch grass, I don't know. And then you come back and you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. But that like, there are times when at that very first thing, because Rachel is exactly right, read through first. Like just let the story show you where its little boo-boos are that you can fix. Just go ahead, take care of it. It's your sweet little baby. But then I will see and I'll be like, oh my God, there's so much work. Oh my God, there's so many typos. Oh my God, there's so much I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna hate it again. And I'm like, but then you will love it. It's okay. Like it's okay that it's a process. It's okay that it's multiple steps. If you try to do everything at once, you're just gonna hate it faster. So try to pace yourself. She says, not doing that.
Yeah. And I also kind of gave myself a little bit of a ridiculous goal to have it completely edited by the end of summer. So I can have, actually initially it was the end of spring. And then that realization came like, well, that's not happening. And so
Yep.
then I'm like, oh, by the end of summer, so I can start sending it off to literary agents. And so now I'm like, okay, we're in June. I don't know. Let's see.
Summer goes through September. It's fine.
Luckily, one of my besties here is an editor, so she's going to help me with the nitty-gritty things.
Nice.
How do you go through this process with co-authoring? Because, like, just the back and forth in my own mind, I know I'm a Gemini, so I got like 2 people living in here, but, like, that back and forth between another editor and their creative process, another author and their creative process and stuff. Like, how do you go through this like messy first draft with them and stuff? Because like, yeah,
it's so much fun. So I've been so lucky, right? So all of my co-authors to date have been incredible for wildly different reasons. So the way we work together is different because so to Nino's point, as a Gemini, you could talk to me on Tuesday and I am an entirely different approach than I was last Thursday. Like it just happens sometimes. But anytime you've got people working together, it's going to be wildly different because the people involved are wildly different. So what I have found, shockingly, like in relationships, communication is the most important thing. So you talk first about like how you're going to break down the story, what you're going to do, who's responsible for what. Are you comfortable with me going through and fixing your typos before I start? Because you always have to read what they wrote before you write, regardless, even if you're doing 2 completely different storylines. It's helpful to see where your co-author is so you don't write, I don't know, the same exact scene, but entirely different. Not that that's ever happened. But you, it's fine. It's fine. But you talk that up front, or like if you see something, you're like, ugh, I don't know if that's working. You already know how you're going to talk about it. And then who gets to make the final decision also really matters. And it's not a hierarchy thing. Like there are people who are like, oh, it's senior author, junior author, or it's lead author, backup author. I don't do well with that. I don't do well with people telling me what to do.
That feels like a man way of doing it.
Yeah. But like if I'm writing in somebody else's universe, they get the final say. Like that just makes sense. It's theirs. And now if it's something that I'm like, I as a creative cannot possibly do this thing, that's different. That's a different conversation, right? But if it's just use this word instead of this word because there's a history for this in this universe or whatever thing, or no, you can't invent anti-gravity. We don't do that here. Like, okay, it's your universe. But you have to agree on that up front if it's not clear, like if you've developed this together, or if you're just not sure, like who is going to make the final decision. And usually for me, it comes down to characters. So this is my character. I get to make the final decision of what happens. Like if you're doing something and I don't think it's right for the character, that is my call because it's my character. But same, if it's your character and I'm like, no, they have to do this. This precious thing has to do this thing. And it's my co-author's character. Oh, well, like that's the compromise of working together. And then when it comes to editing, I actually love this. So again, the first draft is still the messy first draft, and that is completely okay. And there will be times we'll leave comments for each other. My favorite is when we leave comments for each other. Usually like, you made me cry here, or I got a little teary, but I know you could actually stab me in the heart if we punch this up later, or whatever. Or like, I'm too busy laughing, can't do anything else. Can't write today. You were too funny. I can't be here. So like we'll leave comments for each other. But like I said, because I will go in and read over what my co-author wrote, if there are like obvious typos, I'll just fix them because then my brain is soothed and I feel productive and they will do the same. Or we can leave suggestions for each other. But the rule is you don't go back and change the suggestions until we're done, unless it's going to change the arc of the story, which has also happened. But it's communication. And we are all precious little snowflakes and have feelings, and it's important to acknowledge those. So there'll be times these co-authors that I love desperately will have like an idea or a suggestion or whatever, and my heart's like, no, you don't understand my creative genius. And I let myself have that feeling for like 10 seconds. I'm like, all right, now as a grown-up, what do I actually want to do with this? Like, do I agree? Do I not agree? And then again, we communicate about it. So that was a very long answer to your question. But it's,
That was a very good answer.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
It sounds like that structure, like there has to be like a certain level of structure with that. Have you found that like adds to that creative flow or hinders it or just changes it?
The thing I love, because it's a loose structure, like it's a how are we going to make decisions when we get to that point, right? As opposed to you will do this thing that I say that you do, which I would not do well. But I love it because sometimes while there are multiple people in my brain, it gets really lonely and echo chambery in there. But when I have a co-author and we can hop on the phone or video call or email and we're like, oh, but what if we do this thing? Oh, but what if we do this thing? It's my favorite. It's that brainstormy, like, oh my gosh, shiny thing. And sometimes we can't do that shiny thing because we've done too many shiny things and we got to wrap up the book. But it's still that energy of it gets me so pumped. Like Casey, who was on a little while ago, Casey and I wrote a book last fall called Blood of Her Father. And we wrote it in like 5 weeks. We wrote it so fast. But we have written together for a lot of like decades now because we did fan fiction together back in the day. So it was great. We did a lot of practicing. And we've written 4 novels together. I think that was our 5th. 4th? You know what? We've written multiple novels together. And we had so much fun. And we would like get on the phone and talk through something and be like, ooh, we were going to do this. This was the plan. But what if we do this? And what if we switch or what if we whatever? That when we finished and I had to turn and do Plague of Magic all by myself in my own brain with nobody else in my brain, I was so sad. Like, genuinely, because I was like, but who's gonna nerd out with me about this stuff? And who's gonna have fun ideas? Just me? That's crazy. I can't do that. And so we ended up, me, Casey, and our other friend, Melissa Olthoff, who just wrote this incredible book that I would love to talk about at some point.
She's going to be on our podcast
Oh my
as
God.
well, by the way.
She's so great. I love her so much. I love her book so much. We were on Discord until like 3 a.m. on a regular basis, like just writing in our own little things. But every now and then we'd be like, can I interrupt? Okay. And so we'd still get that like fun, creative, like back and forth, but writing our own stories. Which is not really what you asked me, but that like creative excitement is really contagious. And I think if I ever had a co-author where I didn't have that, it wouldn't be as fun of a process.
So the right
Love
person.
that. I've been like chewing Nino's ear off like the past like few days. Once my like book decided it wanted to be a whole new book, I'm like, all right, this, all right, now I'm developing like the magical world, and like this is the origin of this, and oh my God, what about that? And she's like, well, what about this? And I'm like, oh my God, and it's just like all over the place. So
I love that so much.
Literally
that fun stuff. Oh my God. And nobody else understands. My family's like, what are you like? You were gonna write that book. Why are you not writing that book anymore? And they're like, and I'm like, you don't get it. Like that idea is trash now. It is gone.
Always come back later.
Right?
But it's
I'm like,
not for now.
now it's over there. It's in the recycle bin. Maybe I'll take it out. But I took my character over here, and she's, I was like, I'm so glad that Cassie came over. I'm like, yeah, Cassie, she wasn't like she's like dark, and we don't know which way she's going. I don't know, but she cannot be a cozy mystery person right now. But yeah, I think that speaks to like also the power of like writing community and having that person to spitball ideas off of. I would love to know like your suggestions if someone wanted to find someone to do a co-author book with them.
Yeah. So many ideas. So I think it's first, why? Why do you want a co-author? Is it because there's a world you really wish you could play in? Is it because there's a story and you're not sure if you're ready to tackle it by yourself? There's a whole bunch of advice that goes with that. But, or it's just, this person is going to bring out these things in me. Like I see how X author writes Y thing and I'm not there yet and I want to be, or I'm never going to do that particular thing, but I could write with somebody who does, and then my story will have it. Because whatever the reason is you're looking for a co-author, that's going to help you figure out the approach, right? And so, because some people are like, well, I just want to write more faster. Okay, cool. But then you want to find somebody who has a history of writing more fast. You don't want to find somebody who, I don't think Casey didn't tell you the story of how we started to write together professionally, did she?
No, love to hear.
Okay. So, because this will maybe put some of this in context. So, Casey and I wrote fan fiction in the Dragon Riders of Pern universe for 20 plus years, and together, like more than that, I think total, but together. And then one day, like folks, if you have not watched the episode, please, I strongly recommend. Casey was like, you know what? I want to be published. I love writing. I've always been writing. I want to be published. And she put her mind to it. And she's the kind of person who puts her mind to a thing and gets a thing done. It was amazing. And I was sitting there with my little full-time job, my little Pern fan fiction. And I was like, you go, girl. I love this. Nope. I'm over here doing things. And so she's, sent me a bunch of her stories because I love her stuff and I was her alpha reader. And she sends this short story. And she's like, well, what did you think? I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. Like, this character was cool. This thing was cool. And she's like, yeah, no, cool. Do you want to write a novel about it with me? And I was like, what, like a real novel? Like an actual, like people will see it besides just like in our little, yes, because you say yes, right? When somebody gives you an opportunity like that. And then I panicked for months, I think. Like I just panicked. So Casey is a very disciplined writer. She writes, a certain amount every day. She sets goals. She hits her goals. That's who she is. I am a chaos goblin. And so usually, So on most of the books we have written together, except this last one, it would be Casey making steady progress and me talking about making progress. And then in the last 6 weeks before we have to be done, churning out my part of the book, which if Casey hadn't known me for as long as she had, would be a little panic inducing. So you don't want to reach out to a baby might get stuck in her head new author if your goal is to write more fast, because sometimes there are emotions and people have to work through those. So just as a long aside, but yes, what you are looking for in the writing partnership affects how you approach the person. Because I've had a couple of people say like, "Oh, Marisa, you write with all these people. Come write with me." I'm like, but for why? And if it's just like, "Oh, well, because you write books and I want to write books," I'm like, maybe someday. Like, I don't think that's gonna work. But when it's something like, I have this really cool idea and I think your voice would actually make it shine more than mine by itself. Well, no, I'm listening. Like, let's talk about why. And I have approached people. So I said I started. I've got a co-author who's brand new. Her first novel just came out. But at the time we started working on the novel we were working on, it was going to be her first novel. And she had just shown up consistently. She was clearly working hard. She was writing short stories. And they were just, everyone was like, they started strong and they just leveled up every time. And you love to see it, right? Every new project should be your best project. And I got this incredible opportunity to write with a grandmaster of sci-fi. And I was like, oh no, I don't have time to write this book anymore. Oh no, what will I do? And then I talked to the publisher and we were talking about some of the like rising authors he had. And I was like, oh, I can ask Charlie. And he was like, you should totally ask Charlie. And so I just like sent her a message. I was like, hey girl, you want to write a book with me? And she just said yes. She didn't even ask what it was. She just said yes, which was amazing. But I knew her, right? So that's easier. So I guess the three things would be, what are your goals? To sum up my chaos response. What are your goals? What are you looking for? And what is your existing relationship with that person? Because that all is going to affect how you reach out. Like if it's a complete stranger, you may or may, it may not work, right? It'll work if you're David Weber, who is this grandmaster of science fiction, and you want Marisa Wolf to write with you, and you've had like 4 conversations ever. Yeah, she's going to say yes. But like if you're just reaching out to a stranger on the internet and you're not a grandmaster of sci-fi, it may or may not work without some kind of established relationship, because it is, I know people have done it. For me, it is hard to write with somebody I don't know or I can't take the time to get to know. So
that makes
I'm gonna
so
keep giving
much
you
sense.
words on
And
it.
also, Rachel, we should probably co-author one of these
I was
things.
thinking, I'm like, we need to co-author something. I'm like, oh, like the
I'm like,
Fae? Like, we need to do
right?
something
Like
with the
we need to do
Fae.
something very, very derived. And so I'm just like listening to
Yes.
your story, Marisa, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so I am Marisa, and Rachel is Casey.
Right?
Chaos
I
Goblin.
am chaos. She is
Yeah.
structure.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. Best duos, I think.
Right? We
Yes.
always say like because she's got the Virgo energy, and so she's. Sorry,
Sorry. Olive is
Sorry.
excited too. Trying
It
to
says
make
but like
yes. I'll take that as a
yeah.
sign. Do it.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. She votes yes. Sorry.
yeah. No, because she's got that, like structured Virgo energy. So, like with my business, I'm a ghostwriter and a book coach, and for nonfiction. And so, like, she's the editor that goes with the book coaching. Like, she's by default because that is not my strong suit. I
Understood.
am in
Yeah.
the creation, the initiation of
Mhm.
things, but to actually like go into the nitty gritty is not where my genius lives. And so I'm like, oh my God. So, like, bring in all of my chaos and stuff like that with all of her like structure and flow and beautiful writing and everything like that, like to have something in the world of the fae or something. Oh, like you're just giving me ideas now. Like this
Oh
is
yes.
just so good, such a
It's
good
so much fun.
conversation.
It's oh good. I'm so glad. It's because it's when it works, it is so much fun. Like, and the things you turn out are better. Like I'm always trying to level up when I work with Casey because she's so good. So it like I know that some of my work with Casey has been some of my best work because I am I'm like I'm gonna make Casey cry. And if I make Casey cry, look out, readers. Like it's happening. I love it. I love our powers combined. So good.
Yeah, I mean, when we are just talking about like, because my novel would not exist without Rachel. Like, she was the one who was just like, no, you need to do this for sure. And then I'm like spitballing all these ideas and sending her like 10, 15 minute voice notes about Loki of Asgard and like all of these things. And she's like, I love this, and it could be like this, and
Hmm.
stuff like
Hmm.
that. And like, because the like we're gonna talk with your other friend,
Melissa. Yeah. Yeah.
Melissa. There we are.
Yes. Yes.
Knew I knew her name
So
started with
close. Tip of the tongue.
an
Yeah.
M. Yeah. But we're gonna talk to her about the power of friendship within writing.
She's so
And
great.
yeah, and so like, it's just really telling, interviewing you and interviewing Casey on like
Hmm.
the impact that that has. I'm really excited about that
Yeah.
conversation that we're having
Yeah.
with her next week.
Nice. Yeah. Oh my gosh. She is so great.
Next
And
week
it's
in
also,
recording time.
oh yes, yes. You'll see us when you
We're
see
on a
us.
different
Yeah.
timeline than the
It's fine.
listeners.
It's fine. It's all
Everything's
dimensions.
tiny whiny. It's
That's
okay.
right. Time is a flat circle. It's fine. The other thing that's so nice, so like the collaboration is amazing, but exactly what you guys have already done, in like bouncing ideas off of each other, like it already makes your work so much better. And to have somebody that you trust and you love and you admire and you respect and all of these things, it makes your work better because they see you and they see your work. And for all I'm very often like, please do not perceive me. Like I do not I don't know why I'm writing this story for people to see like little pieces of my soul, but please don't actually look at me. Um, like it's amazing though when somebody reads your story and sees the things you're doing. And I will say this as like a brag. It's not even a humble brag, it's full on brag. I read Melissa's book, which I keep right next to me so I can show it off on the internet. I love this book so much. And so I read it really early as she was writing it. And like I sent her many comments in all caps and I cursed at her a lot for being evil and awful and terrible and really talented and wonderful. And there was one thing I was like, here's one thing. I feel like you set it up the whole book, but it never happened. Is there a secret plan? Like, what's going on? And she was like, you son of a bitch. Like, she's like, no, but that's what I should have done. I was like, well, your brain already knew it because you set it up beautifully. Like, she didn't
Yeah.
even have to change anything in the book. Like, she'll talk about that sometimes. And she's like, yeah, so Marisa just like saw it. She saw what I wanted to do, even though I hadn't realized I wanted to do it. And it was like a little thing. It's not a main plot point or anything, but it's something that like now every time I read this particular character, I'm like, you're all welcome. But it's amazing to have friends like that in this world because you are so locked in your head sometimes. So to have somebody who you respect, admire, love, trust, to also be able to go on this journey with you, either as a co-author or a collaborator or a friend, like, whew, makes things so much better.
I love that.
That is so
So
awesome and
go right
epic.
together. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Especially like both of us are so full and deep into our writing journey. Like because both of us came from like the professional writing space,
Hmm.
right? And so then it's like, okay, well, we're not done doing this for other people, but like
Right.
we're like investing all of this time and energy into other people's work. Like why are we not doing it ourselves? And so, bringing that uh awakening
Yeah. Yeah.
to it. And then like I came up with my idea last year, and she was just like my rock solid support, because like I would talk to my family about it and they'd be like, I don't
Okay.
know what that means. Okay, sure. And it's
Mhm.
just like I could talk to my cat and get the same response, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of
But
it is
when I
loud,
talk to
but yeah.
Rachel, yeah,
Yeah.
but when I talk to Rachel about it, it's,
Hmm.
oh my God, and then this could happen. And it's like the energy is being met the same. And
Yes.
so I feel like, like I did not know anything about co-authoring except for like good omens. Like, like, well, that was great and stuff. Another author that were kind of like,
I
but
know.
I know that one broke my heart. Not that Rowling didn't, but
Yeah. Same. Same.
yeah. And so but it's something that I've just like never really even thought of, especially like if you're not already like a 10-time, award-winning author.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Which I am not. So not yet. But yeah, I don't know. Again, like it's not everybody, right? You can't. I've talked to some people who have horror stories about co-authoring, but a lot of it comes from not having a relationship or good communication or both, and just not being on the same page, right? So like, literally. But if you have completely different ideas about like how characters work or how story works or why you're writing the book, it's not gonna work, unless it's a very mercenary, like basically ghostwriting, but your name is on it. Like, unless it's very much like that, like, sure, I guess it could work. But for me, it needs to be something where it's somebody that you are able to have conversations with, because that's when you're going to get a better joint product than either one of you could have done on your own.
That's awesome. And I don't remember who it was. It was some authors listened to on a podcast like a decade ago, and they would co-author books. And I think this too like shows like different styles of co-authoring. One of them, they would like kind of plot it together. One of them would do the entire first draft, and then the other one would go through and do like the subsequent draft. Because like the one was really good at laying it down. The other one's like, I need something on the page, and then that gets my creativity going. And I just think it's kind of interesting to see different ways that people can work together across a project.
Yeah. Yeah, like even so I have never done it that way. Maybe someday, who knows? But it has been a lot of we plan out like, okay, you're gonna have these two viewpoint characters, I'll have these two viewpoint characters. And like here's the overall plot, we agree, but as we get into it, if we change, we talk about it, and that's cool. I started doing it that way. So that's how Casey and I did book 1 and 2 of our Cat Assassin trilogy, with our alien cats, or aliens that look like cats and are the galaxy's foremost assassins, obviously.
I'm in for that too. All right.
So much fun. Oh, it's so much fun with that. But so that's how we did the first two, and then the third one we didn't. We just kind of traded back and forth the story itself. And so with my second co-author, I don't remember what order these things happened in, we were like, we'll do the same thing. You have these characters, I have these characters. It fell apart like 2 chapters in, because he wrote something and I was like, oh, ooh, what if I do this? He's like, oh my gosh, yes, please do that. And so I did. And then he's like, okay, what if I do this? And I was like, yes, do that. So we were just like basically writing until our brain was like, all done. And then we'd tag the other one in. And that was super fun too, because people were like, oh, Mark wrote these and Marisa wrote these. And we're like, I mean, sometimes, but
yeah,
incorrect. So it was fun.
That's amazing. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. We will have your website in our description below, so that way everyone can go and follow you and read all of your books. And so any last minute mentions that you wanted to drop in before we wrap everything up?
No. If you go to conventions, I do. I lied. Conventions, introvert, extrovert, ambivert, doesn't matter. If you are really looking for co-authors or a writing community and there are conventions in your area, I recommend, as your budget allows, to check them out. I would not go expecting to find those connections, but it often works out that way because you are surrounded by people who love the same kind of nerdy things you love. So if you're sci-fi fantasy, if you're trying to write nonfiction, that's probably not going to actually help you at all. But if you're in my genres, strongly recommend fan conventions, literary conventions. Go and just like chat with people or listen to conversations and kind of get the vibe of people around you.
We were just talking, like conventions sound so much fun. And yeah, that's like on our list now, is to find some conventions. Maybe we can find something like in between us, because we're, about 7 hours apart. So maybe we could find something in the middle that would be a blast. Because we've never actually met in person, but that's on the list too.
We've been friends, now for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, and we've never been in the same room.
Yeah, that was the same for me and Casey for a really long time. Yeah.
Wow.
Now I live 20 minutes away from her, so dream.
Oh, sweet. There you go.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
Yeah, Casey had mentioned the conventions as well. So it is definitely worth a Google when we've already had 2 of our 3 guests mentioning conventions.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So, especially writing being such a secluded experience, a lot of times
Mhm,
there's
yeah.
solitude. Anyways, so thank you very much for joining. All the information will be linked in the description box below.
And remember, A Plague of Magic comes out on September 2nd, so grab your copy then.
That too. Thank you for listening. Check out the show notes for details and links from the episode. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Special thanks to our composer, Micah Silverstein. Enjoy the rest of the music.